Whew, let's take a breath. Wow. That was a big old yes, right? Anytime we ask God for guidance, anytime we open ourselves up and ask for direction and guidance and protection and whatever, that's saying yes, because that's our way of surrendering. And Ernest Holmes says that the soul must make a complete surrender to the spirit. The soul must make a complete surrender to the spirit. A complete surrender. And yes is a complete surrender. It really is. So let's just breathe that in. The theme for the month, as I've said, is just say yes. And today my topic is, how big is your yes? How big is your yes? How big is your yes? Because if life is for living, how we get to live it, how we get to experience it, is determined by the size of our yes, by the depth and the breadth of our yes. And we forget that sometimes. We have all kinds of conditions that we put on yes. And I'm saying that because that leads me to the commitment we just made to each other Friday night, the I do's that we did. I took mine seriously. Did you take yours seriously? Yes. Okay, that commitment was for this community. The yes is for this community. The installation was for this community, for us to come together in partnership and commit to each other that we are going to partner together regardless of individual opinions and all kinds of stuff that comes up and all kinds of human stuff that comes up. We're going to partner together to make this the best community it can possibly be. Partner together so that we can open ourselves wide so that God's vision for itself as this community can come through easily and effortlessly and with no holes barred. Come through easily and effortlessly with unfettered yes-ness. That's what we want for this community. We want it to grow. We want it to expand. We want to be the very best we can be. We want this community to be the best it can be. We want it to be all that God sees itself as being, as Creative Living Fellowship. And it can only do that through each one of us and through our yes. And so as we came together and made that commitment Friday night, I've been hearing this morning, I'm not going to sing. I've been hearing this morning, Al Jarreau, remember, we're in this love together? We're in this love together. We're in this love together. And it's the kind that lasts forever. Like berries on the vine, is sweeter than the wine or something. Oh, it gets sweeter all the time. Okay. At any rate, we're in this love together. That's the whole point. We're in this love together, and that's something that I think that it's important for us to remember as we move forward, because we are in this together, and we are moving forward together, and the vision is really just unfolding so magnificently right before our very eyes. We've been visioning and visioning and visioning, and it's just unfolding, and more and more and more magnificence is beginning to just appear and just reveal itself. And there's so much more. If we can see it, we're limiting it. If we can see it, it's being limited. So I want you to ride this wave with me. I want us to ride this wave together and to know that this is the God wave that we're riding. And so we're saying yes to it. And we're saying yes to it. And anytime there's a block of any kind that comes up, let it go. And just say yes. Go deeper with your yes. And so ask yourself the question, how big is my yes? How big is my yes? How big is my yes? And then ask, can it get any bigger? Can it get any better? Can I go any deeper? And then how do I do that? And so that's what I'm encouraging you to do today, just looking at how can I let go more? How can I open up more? One of the things I want you to be keeping in mind is we cannot allow our yes to be determined by the how, as I said before. I've said not to let the what be determined by the how, but not to let the yes be determined by the how either. And what really came up for me during the installation time, as I said on Friday night, having Ricky Byers here. I knew all the time that I wanted those songs that she sang to be sung at the installation. And I wanted somebody who could sing them like Ricky. And I wanted somebody who could sound like Ricky and make him sound good. But somewhere in my mind, there must have been the question of how that was going to happen, because it never occurred to me to ask Ricky to sing them. It never occurred to me. I was just telling Rachel, ask this person, you do it. You do all that. And as I look back on it, I realized it was the how that was holding me back. So sometimes the how will hold us back from our yes. The how will hold us back from our yes. So we start to say yes to things that we think we can have. We start to say yes to things that we think that we can create ourselves. We start to say yes to things that we think we can see how it's going to happen. And so the things that we don't see how it can happen, well, it can't happen because of this, it can't happen because of that. Well, Ricky can't come because a couple of months before, she was down in Houston at Reverend Michael Gott's church down at Unity of Houston. So now she's traveling, then she's going to go to Ethiopia, then she's going to do this. All this was on my mind, not saying she can't come, but just looking at all the places she was. So I was daunted by that, and I was apparently thinking, there's no way she can come here. But you know what? Once I just moved out of the way, and Cheryl said, look, just ask Ricky. and she did. She came. And so that was a really good lesson for me. That was a really good lesson for how we live our lives. We live our lives. I won't say yes to this because I don't know how it's going to happen. I won't say yes to that because that's too big. That's too much to ask. I won't say yes to that because I've tried it before and I failed at it. Or I never follow through with the things I say I'm going to do. Or whatever criticisms we have for ourselves. We find all kinds of reasons. I'm too old. There's no limit on God's time. God doesn't have any kind of time limit for us. And my mother always said, if you got breath in your body, so long as you got breath in your body, you can do whatever you want to do. And she really believed that. As long as you got breath in your body, anything can change. And so we can't put a limit on it by age, by ability, by talent, by anything. We have to just open our hearts and open our minds and just go for it and say yes. Yes, saying yes to life. Saying yes to life, because life is for living. Life is for living. And as we really start to keep that in mind, that life is for living, we start to look at, am I really living it to the fullest? Am I really living it? Am I being all that I was created to be? Am I being all that I can be? Am I being all that I ever thought I wanted to be? So start saying yes to what it is you want, even if you can't figure out how. Even if you can't figure out how, go for the yes. Go for the what. What it is I want. What it is I want. Yes. And say yes to that. If there's anything that you think is lacking in your life, say yes to that. Say yes to that. Say yes to whatever that quality of God is. Because the gift has already been made. The gift it has already been given to us. God just is and is always being its isness. And so all we have to do is just tune into that. And as Charity was singing, when we are in that place of feeling low, feeling however we are feeling, in that place of being in a room alone, and we are knowing that power and that presence is right there where we are, and we are calling upon it to be with us, to guide me, to direct me, to show me the way, to open me up and use me however. We sing that song every Sunday. Use me however. And when we really go to that place of complete surrender and say, yes, God, yes. Fasten your spiritual seatbelts, because that's kind of scary. Because once we say yes to God, we don't know where that's going to take us. I certainly didn't know I'd be here. I'm glad that I am, but I had no idea that I'd be here saying, yes, God, use me however you want. It brought me here. It brought me you. And oh, my God, how happy I am. How wonderful this is. But I could never have imagined that myself. Had I imagined it, it would have scared the bejeebies out of me. Still does. But do you know what I'm saying? It's like, go for it. If we don't go for it now, when are we going to go for it? If not now, when? If not now, when? We don't have an unlimited number of tomorrows. I say that all the time. If not now, when? Now is the time to live our lives. Now is the time to say yes. Now is the time to open our hearts. Now is the time to prove the principles that we talk about. Now is the time to prove that we know that there's a power and there's a presence and there's a life that is our very life, that is seeking expression through each one of us. Now is the time for us to prove that. Because if it's not expressing through us, if that's the truth and it's not expressing through us, that's a truth we don't know. Because truth known is demonstrated. Truth known is demonstrated. Truth known is demonstrated. Keep that in mind. Let's take a breath. As you go through your yes and releasing the concern about the how of it, then start to also look at consciousness around the yes. What's your consciousness around the yes? Because Ernest Holmes says the consciousness that obtains sustains. The consciousness that obtains sustains. The consciousness with which you obtain something is the consciousness that will sustain that. And unless you shift your consciousness, then everything remains the same. And so if you are saying yes and you are seeking things out with a consciousness of fear, and you're operating from a consciousness of fear, that's sustained. That is sustained. That fear is sustained. That fear is sustained. If you are one who's saying yes and yes and yes because you're a people pleaser, because you want to make everybody happy, then that you have to maintain that in order for everybody to be happy, except you probably. That's the way that works. That's the way that works. And so just looking at what is it that I'm saying yes to, first of all? Because when we're talking about the big yes here, we're talking about the yes to God, the yes to spirit, the yes to life, the yes to the all that is, the yes that will allow us to experience the allness and the fullness of God. And if we're going to experience that allness and that fullness of God, then we've got to give our all and our full consent to God. And we do that through our yes. And so really keeping in mind that what is the consciousness with which I'm saying yes? Is it a consciousness of competition? Do I want to get out ahead of everybody else? Do I want to make sure that nobody does it any better than me? Whatever the case may be. Am I competing with somebody? Or am I just being the best me I can be? Because if we're in a consciousness of competition, then we got to keep competing. We got to keep the consciousness that obtains, sustains. So if we got to get things through competition, then we got to compete all the time. And that gets really wearying. That gets really tiring. We always got to compete for whatever it is we get. This is a cooperative universe. We don't have to compete for anything. We don't have to compete for the air. All of us are in here breathing. And there's more than enough air to go around. I can take as many breaths as I want. And it's not going to take anything from you. You can take as many as you want. It's not going to take anything from me. And sometimes we have to get that basic. We have to get that basic to realize the truth, that there's more than enough to go around. There's more than enough good. There's more than enough God. And God just keeps on being God. God keeps on being God. Ernest Holmes says God is always God, no matter what our emotional storm or objective situation may be. God is always God. And God is always being itself. And when God is being itself, it's all magnificence. It's all wonderful. It's all glory. It's all loving. It's all peace-filled. It's all in all. It's all of everything, things that we can't even imagine. And so what we want to do is to tap into that. Tap into that. Go deeper with your spiritual practice. I'm going to continue to harp on this and harp on this and harp on this and harp on this, because I want you to understand the importance of spiritual practice, the importance of meditation, the importance of prayer and spiritual mind treatment, the importance of affirmations, the importance of the 7 sacred practices that we have here. We don't just have them hanging up on the wall somewhere. They're tools for living. They're tools for living. And so in order for us to really be in that place where we are opening our hearts and opening our minds and being all that we individually can be, this community becomes all that it can be. And we are beacon lights into the world. We're beacon lights into the world. And that's another thing that came up in visioning a lot, was a beacon light. I would see it a lot. like a beacon out, just calling on to those all who would come, and all who can serve, all who can be served by our consciousness, by what we have to offer here, by what we have to give here, by our love. We are a community of love. We're a community of love. And so in order to express that, we have to be loving. And we have to say yes to love. We have to say yes to love, even in the face of anger and resentment, even in the face of pissosity. We get into that sometimes. Even in the face of all that other stuff, we have to say yes to love. And I'm inviting you today, take a breath and say yes to love. Say yes to opening your heart even more, even when somebody really gets on your last nerve. Really, say yes to love. Say yes to forgiveness. Say yes to forgiveness. Say yes to letting it go. And realize that don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's time for us to live. It's time for us to move forward. It's time for us to grow. It's time for us to expand. There's so many who are seeking the consciousness that we have. There's so many who are seeking the truth that we know. And we can impart that in our very livingness. We can impart that in the way that we live our lives, in the way, because we don't, I don't care what we say. We can spout off principle all day long. We do that a lot. God is all there is. God is good. There's only one. We things that we spout off all the time. But if it's not showing up in our livingness, if it's not showing up in our day-to-day, they're just a bunch of words. They're just a bunch of words. And so we want to have more than a bunch of words. We want our awareness, our knowledge of God to precede us. It precedes us. Wherever we go, God is seen before we are. In our actions, in the way we live our lives, in the way we talk, in the way we treat other people. All of that is a result of us saying yes at a deep, deep level and practicing the principles that we know and allowing ourselves to move into that place of oneness, move into that place of saying yes and experiencing the allness and the fullness and the richness and the wonder of God and God's grace and God's givingness in our very lives. And we do that the closer we get to God, the more we meditate, the more we pray, the more we practice the principles, the more we let go of that stuff that doesn't serve us, the more we let go of our fears and all that other stuff, then we start to move more into oneness. We see our lives begin to change. We see our thought processes begin to change. We hear our language begin to change. The words that we speak begin to change. And before we know it, everybody around us everyone has changed around us. And we think, well, because you go through life thinking, if that person would just change, everything would be just great. If he would just change the way he does things, wouldn't that be wonderful? If she would stop doing that, then my life would be so much better. And what happens is when we change, she stops doing that. When we change, he stops doing whatever it was he was doing, just getting on my nerves. Because we change and our consciousness has up-leveled when we change, and then we start to attract that which is at that same level of consciousness. So it's really interesting how when we say yes to just being different, to being all that I'm created to be, then other people seem to do the same thing. And those who don't seem to fall away. They're not a part of our experience any longer. Glory be. Yeah. And we start to attract those who really can walk this way with us. Who really can walk this way with us in peace and in harmony and in balance and in joy and in love. Who can walk this way with us in oneness. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. I'm always reminded of that phrase in that chapter in that book, How Can I Serve? Walking each other home. I love that. Because that's what we're doing. We're walking each other home. We are walking each other home. And we can walk each other home arm in arm by just saying yes. We can say yes to walking each other home. And you know what? When little things come up between us, little challenges, little personality differences, little barbs here and there and all that kind of stuff, the question is this the way that I'm really want to, are we walking each other home? Am I walking home with this person now? And if not, how can I do that? How can I do that? How can I change that? What do I need to change right now? Not how can they change or how can I change them. What do I need to change within myself? What do I need to release? What do I need to let go? What do I need to, how can I see this differently in a way that benefits us all? That benefits us all and that keeps us out of that place of smallness, that keeps us out of that place of narrow-mindedness, that puts us into that place of open-minded, open-heartedness. That's what yes is all about. And our experiences are so much bigger when our yes gets so much bigger. Our experiences are so much deeper and so much richer when our yes gets deeper. And so I'm encouraging you. We have the opportunity. This is day one to start out as a community of yes. And this is going to be, you know what, the theme just changed. It's life. It's life is for living, just say yes. How about that? So you're going to hear me talk about just say yes the whole year. And by the end of the year, we'll have it, right? And we're starting right now. Just say yes. That's all we got to do, just say yes. So open your hearts, open your minds, and fasten your seatbelts, because we are about to go on a magnificent ride. A magnificent ride. There is so much waiting for us to do here. And more importantly, so much waiting for us to be here. For us to be here. We want to be that place and space through which God can work. We want to be that place and space through which God shows up. We want to be that place and space through which all the magnificence of God is revealed. We can't be that by doing. We just open up. And whatever the doing is, God will do it through us. Because it's mighty scary when we think we have to do it ourselves. But when we open up and allow God to do it through us, oh my goodness. We just stand back and see the salvation of the Lord. That's what it's all about, yeah. So let's breathe that in. Let's move into the energy of the yes. Let's give great thanks for it. Great thanks, because gratitude, that high vibration of gratitude, takes us a long way. And so we ride that wave of gratitude, so grateful for what is unfolding in our lives as our lives, right here and right now. And so we turn within in this moment, so grateful for the awareness I am that God is all there is. That God really is all there is. The only life, the only power, the only presence, the only breath is God. That is my life. That is the life of each of us here this day. I say yes to this life. And I say yes on behalf of all of us. Yes, at a deep level. And as I say yes, I am willing to let go and release anything that would encumber, that would hinder in any way, that would hamper in any way this allness and this fullness that is God. And so I release the fear and the doubt and the anxiety and stuff. I release all that stuff that would block. And I open my heart and I open my mind to love and to peace and to harmony and to joy and to all that God has in store, to abundance and prosperity, to all of it, to forgiveness. Letting my heart soften and allowing forgiveness to pour through, and compassion and wisdom and understanding. All of the gifts of the Spirit. I'm saying yes to them all for each one of us this day. And as I do so, I know that healing is happening in each and every life here. Healing is happening in the life of this community right here and right now. We let go of smallness. And we allow the allness of God to emerge. As I open this circle of prayer, I pause momentarily so that you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer this day. You may speak their names silently or loud, but you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names are spoken here this day, I know that God is right where each of them is, blessing and keeping them, and that healing is happening in each and every life. God is in the midst of every circumstance, every situation, every event, and healing is happening, regardless of what appearance may be showing up right now. God is in the midst of it all. We say yes to healing everywhere. We say yes to God everywhere. We say yes to love everywhere. We say yes and yes and yes. Thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, Infinite Presence. Thank you, Divine Mother. I'll just allow it to be now. And so it is.